Hey, what's up, everyone? I am your host, Sethee.
I am Stylist Rashi Bindra.
Elevated Grapes is a digital media hub that includes a talk show, event correspondence, and digital hosting for partner projects.
The talk show which you are listening to or watching, depending what you're doing, covers topics in fashion, business, and lifestyle.
We regularly have incredible guests that share their stories, their experiences, and tips on the above topics.
And when we don't, you get to hear how we talk to each other off air.
So subscribe to your favorite streaming site, YouTube, and Instagram for behind the scenes and additional visual content.
Let's jump right into the show. Welcome to Elevated Grapes.
This is the Elevated Grapes Podcast.
Elevated Grapes Podcast.
With your host, Sethee.
And
Stylist, Rashi Bindra.
It's time to get started.
Let's talk fashion, shall we?
A portrait photographer, Scott Schafer's unique style has led him to capture some prominent people, such as Barack Obama, Stephen Colbert, Mark Zuckerberg, and Pink, just to name a few. As well, he's very popular in the entertainment and advertising industry. Scott has worked for companies such as HBO, Paramount Pictures, Universal Pictures, and Intel. So with that, Scott, welcome to Elevated Grapes.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's our honor. So listen, we're going to jump right into it for the benefit of our listeners. You've such an accomplished, business in the world of photography. Can you talk a bit more about how you got started in the world of photography?
Sure, absolutely. I don't want to take too long, but it started, when I was a very young kid. I guess I became interested in photography when I was in the fourth grade. And the only reason I is because I think my teacher was dating somebody who worked at Kodak, because they came to the school and set up a darkroom in the library office. And we had these little Instamatic cameras, these little 126 Instamatic cameras, little film cameras that have cartridges. And so we took our pictures, on the playground, people doing playing, whatever, doing pyramids and stupid stuff, and got the film process. And then we were able to use the enlarger. And when I saw a picture come up, it was like magical for me. And then, but I didn't take any photo classes in high school. But I was really into music, and I had a camera, and a bunch of us would go into the big shows, kind of back in the day, I'm older. So in the 80s, it was like Van Halen, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. Like I was a club kid, big concert goer, and I'd sneak my camera in. My friend would have the lens in his crotch. I'd have the body in my crotch, a couple rolls of film. And we'd go, and it was back in the day when it was like general admission. It was just this giant mosh pit, and you just like charge. And I'd be on my friend's shoulders trying to take pictures of Eddie Van Halen and stuff, and then go back and sell them at school. So my dream at that time was to shoot for like Hit Parader magazine, Circus magazine, Kerrang magazine. These are all like music rags of the day.
Yeah.
And then when I graduated high school, I didn't go straight to college. I was kind of, not sure what I wanted to do. I kind of messed around quite a bit. But I took a fine art photo class in junior college. I grew up in the Bay Area. I'm from San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And I took this class, and it was all about expressing yourself creatively, coming up with ideas, mm-hmm. and kind of further, back into the darkroom again. And I really loved it. But, I never thought about, it could be a job or anything. I always wanted it to, but I don't come from an art background. My parents aren't, artists, or, I grew up in the suburbs, but I worked at a grocery store, and I mopped floors, and I took out garbage and stuff like that. But I always took pictures and stuff while I was in school. And like the best thing that ever happened to me was I got fired from that grocery store, because back then my hair touched my collar. You had to wear a tie. It was silly. And so I got fired, and I was like, screw this. I'm going to go work, in photography somehow. So I got a job at a photo lab. And the guy that was the owner was a graduate from Art Center College of Design. So I spent 2 years working there and learning how to color print, black and white print, do duping, hand processing C41, E6, black and white, making posters, like doing small product photography, some portrait stuff, but just full post-production finishing kind of stuff, all with film back then. So I became very proficient technically, and have a mind for that, you know, like just understanding f-stops and ratios and color balances and all that kind of stuff. And I was continuing to take pictures, and I decided I really wanted to try to be a photographer. It's like, why not? You know, let's give it a go. And and at that time, I wasn't really the, would you say, good kid? You know, I was kind of getting in trouble a little bit. There's things going on that weren't so great. So my parents didn't really have a lot of trust. And, oh, now he's going to go to art school. Great, you know. And, but apparently the school was hard to get into, and, you know, all this. So I kind of set this goal in my mind, no matter what, I'm leaving. So I actually applied to the school. I went down and saw it. I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this before. The work on the walls blew me away. And, but if I didn't get in, I was going to join the Navy and be a photo mate. So I'd already like taken a test, you know, to go, I scored high to go into the Navy. So either way I was leaving. And I got into art school, and then I moved to LA and did very well in art school, and really just for 3 years learned how to, you know, studied art, studied photography, you know, learned lighting, learned other things I was already pretty proficient at, but really also just more about ideas. And my fellow students were from all over the world, and it really influenced me. You know, the teachers are great, but I was really more inspired by, you know, my classmates and the people at the school themselves. And, you know, for 3 years, I just lived that. That was it, 24/7, no social life, nothing. It was just photography, making art. And, you know, it kind of traumatized me, you know, but it, like, as I came out, I was like, oh my God, what happened to the world? But it, you know, I was starting to work immediately. I put together a portfolio, and before I graduated, I was already shooting my first assignments.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a little older. I went when I was 23. So I think it was, you know, the whole party thing and all that kind of stuff. I was dead set on, you know, really doing this, you know.
Yeah.
And, so I just worked very, very hard, you know.
And I think, like, also, like, from, you know, what you're saying is that you kind of knew you wanted to be in the photography world somehow. Like, that was the part of the world that you wanted to be in. It was just kind of like putting the pieces together and like finding where you fit.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because shooting album packages or magazine covers or celebrities or any of that kind of stuff was like this like way pie in the sky dream. For me, it was like, maybe I'll shoot prom photos, maybe a wedding, you know, and, you know, soccer pictures, or, you know, I mean, I really had no idea. And it's funny, this is a funny story. Before I went to school, I called a bunch of photographers because I didn't know anything about the business. I didn't know anything. I was so green. I had no clue. And I called this one photographer who was a San Francisco-based photographer. He did a lot of annual reports and, you know, kind of design pieces. So a lot of companies, kind of like that, you know, industrial companies, he'd go and shoot their annual books, you know. Anyway, I called him cold and I say, yeah, you know, I'm going to school. I don't know. I'd love to be able to pick your brain, you know, and show you my work, you know. He's like, yeah, man, come on down. And thinking like a normal interview, you know, like this is how green I was. I put on a suit and tie, you know, and I had my little portfolio and I showed up all, you know, slicked up, and here you go. And he's like, what's up, man? You know, but he was really nice. And he was a good early mentor for me. And his name was Christopher Springman. And he's very good at the Gap, very good at talking. And I learned a lot from just that. I mean, doing the work itself, the shooting is one thing, but the connection with people, the way he related to them and, you know, directed them. And also you had to think on the spot. You go to these places that aren't very inspiring, and you have to create something interesting. So I learned a lot from him. And yeah, so he kind of sort of gave me my break. And then when I was off to school, I had a tiny bit of experience, you know, of assisting a little bit. So
yeah. So and this is something we'll kind of come back to, but how important, according to you, is assisting to get into the world or to be a good photographer?
I think it's amazing. It's a great way. For me, when I was in school, I saw a lot of guys and women graduate and go into assisting and never get out. So that was the thing I was very concerned about.
Right.
I did do some assisting, not a lot. I took one semester off and worked for one of my instructors, and I was kind of more of a gopher. I just did whatever he said, and I didn't know anything. I wanted I want to be an assistant and like be on camera. It's like, once I saw a big time advertising shoot, I'm like, yeah, I don't even want to touch anything. I'll be over here, just having that kind of experience. But I think as an assistant, it's crucial to have that. I didn't really assist that much, but I have had guys work for me that have gone off and become great photographers in their own right with their own careers. And the benefit of being on set, understanding how things work, how to put it all together, and work as a team. It's always a team effort. I had enough experience to know a little bit and see stuff on set, but I kind of went straight into it, so I was a little blind. I kind of was in my own little fishbowl. But the guys I've worked with, they're top notch. And if you have a plan, like one of my fellow students quit Art Center and he assisted a guy who's full-time assistant. And he basically, he finished school assisting this guy, but continued to work on his own work the whole time. By the time I graduated, he left that photographer and started his own career. And we both kind of start off in the same way. So, on the job training is always the best experience.
Right.
So yeah, I would highly suggest it, for any of you out there, it's necessary.
It's absolutely key to work as a team, as you said, and like learn the small things, and also to know the difference when to kind of branch out on your own and not necessarily be stuck assisting.
Yeah,
I think that's also very key to kind of be like aware of that part of your growth.
And there are professional assistants, and that's what they want to do, and they are photographers assistants, and and they make a really good living, and they're really good, and those guys are hard to come by because they're booked all the time.
Yeah.
And the advantage of being an assistant is if you get to work with a lot of different other photographers, you get to see how they work, how their productions go, how they light, how their team works together. My assistants, my first is always the most important. And when I have other assistants, I just have my first gather people he likes. I don't handpick them separately. I want him to be with a crew of guys that he's familiar with, they work well together with. But he's like a partner in many ways. We problem solve lighting, how to, kind of get from point A to point B. It's always very fast. So, having a plan and just knowing each other, it just makes life easier.
Absolutely. So guys, let's take that opportunity to take a quick break. We're having a conversation with Scott, a well-known, renowned photographer. We're going to come back. This is Elevated Grapes on Rukus Avenue Radio.
Hi everyone, I'm Stylist Rashi. Bindra. Do not forget to follow us on Instagram as Elevated Grapes and show some love.
And everybody, welcome back to another wonderful episode with Elevated Grapes. And we have Scott Schafer with us today, a world-renowned and amazing photographer. So Scott, I'm loving your story so far. I love our conversation. And so now just for the benefit of our listeners, can you define what is commercial photography and what made you kind of choose this path, or as you say, you fell into this path over like fashion or weddings?
Well, if you asked me to do a wedding, I'd be like, no way. I'll take President Obama over a wedding any day.
And his portrait was amazing.
Way too much pressure. Yeah, no, that's too much pressure.
So hold on, a wedding is more pressure than.
Oh God, you kidding me?
Photographing.
If you don't know the person, I've watched other guys do it in the way. No offense to you ladies out there, but man, No thanks. I'm in and out, like I do my peace out, I'm not like, so it's just a different thing, commercial photography, I guess by definition is, you get paid. It's all sorts of commercial style photography, but commercial photography, what I do is, advertising, entertainment, network kind of stuff. I did a lot of album packages, still do, but it's just I guess it's just a name. Art and commerce is sort of, there's an agency called Art and Commerce. So it's just, I'm selling a product, what I do, my style, whatever that fits into, whether it's a magazine or a movie poster or album package, that fits into, whatever designer, art director is looking for their whatever their project is.
Right.
So I don't know if there's any more to elaborate off of that, but that's.
No, I think that's pretty much, that covers it.
All right, good.
And then why not fashion? And I'm just curious. This is like a personal curious thing. Like, why not fashion?
I knew this was coming.
I'll tell you, I love fashion. I mean, I'm inspired by all fashion photography. Most of it I've seen is always just blows me away. I think, and I took a really great fashion photography class at Art Center under a great photographer called Jasmine, who was friends with everybody. In my era, it was like Herb Ritz, Matthew Ralston, Philip Dixon, Sheila Metzner, Bruce Weber. And he had all those guys come into class, and I think in the class itself, I'm kind of a sensitive guy, I'm not like the tough, like my stuff's the best. You guys get over here and this is the way you do it kind of thing. Fashion is kind of like that,
It is.
for it's kind of snotty and, I'm not that guy. Not to mention, I don't really know a lot about clothes, and that's not, for me, I know what I want a mood, I'm going for a mood or a tone or a look. And I love, I've done fashion-y kind of stuff, I guess you could say. But that world is just never appealed to me. But it's funny, when I do personal work or I test, a lot of it's fashion-y. I go there and I look at like Merton Marcus and I go, wow, how'd they do that? And I want to play with lighting or some of, different color work, or, but when it comes to clothes and, working without, it's just never been in my scene. I'm kind of more of the concept, editorial, especially when back in the magazines. I mean, when the magazines were, that kind of work was very, it was like, that was where your portfolio. And there were so many, and they had money, and they'd fly you with an assistant to wherever, and even sometimes two people with your gear, and they'd want your ideas. We're shooting whoever, it's like, come up with some ideas, and that would be it. You'd pitch them and they'd show up on the day, and you'd hope that the talent would be into it, and there you go. And that's what made it fun. That doesn't happen as much anymore, where you get to kind of just be freewheeling, do your thing, even towards the end when all the big magazines were, kind of closing down a little bit, and those budgets shrank, they would kind of come to you like an advertising assignment, say, this is the shot we want for the cover, and this is the shot we want for the inside, and you fit that mold, your style fits that thing. So it would be difficult sometimes, and I'd have to kind of gently say, well, okay, I like that, but what if this, So it's a little different, but I love fashion. I just don't really like the people, to be quite honest. If I'm gonna
No, trust me, I totally see that.
But I think fit is a big thing, right? Like, you can enjoy, shooting a certain style or shooting a certain thing, but if you don't feel like the fit within the group of people or groups of people you're going to be working with is right, then it will eventually at the end of the day reflect on your work, because you won't be as interested or as into it, or putting your best foot forward. And it's not that you don't want to do it for your own branding, but it's just there's almost that block, right?
It's another world, like I said. It's a whole nother dynamic,
right?
A whole nother world, and you really do need to know about the clothes and the designers and that whole world. I love, like I said, I've shot fashion-y kind of stuff and have had great makeup artists and great stylists that do fashion, and and it always makes a difference, when you have those kinds of people, because it really is about makeup, hair, clothes, and then the rest is just, okay, I'll put a light on it and do my thing. The models are amazing, they know how to work, it's incredible, and I very much am influenced and respect it, and I'm just, I like music. I'm a music guy.
I can relate to that.
He's
You might see it behind my. You might see the records behind my head.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I've gotten to work with my heroes in music, and that's been like
incredible.
That's sort of the way I guess my trajectory went. So
yeah.
So flipping back over to sort of your world again. So obviously you've been doing this for some time. You built quite a career in it. Talk to us about some of the challenges you faced entering the industry and when you were sort of getting into it.
Well, I think starting off for myself, you're by yourself. You're so for me, I learned a lot from what other people were doing. First off, it was about promotion. First having the goods. Having the work. Having a nice organized portfolio. And I started making my own promotional pieces. And back then there was no internet. There was none of that kind of stuff yet. So I'd literally print them in the darkroom and kind of do a little litho, which is just like stamp print in the darkroom with my name and my phone number. And that was it, no website, and I'd mail them to, I had a small list, but it was always record companies, magazines, some advertising agencies that I was aware of. I didn't really do any movie stuff or entertainment world stuff in terms of production, networking, things like that until much later in my career. But that's sort of how I got started. And then I went to New York on my own when I was still in school. I went to New York because another photographer that was doing well, who was a fashion photographer at school, went to New York. He's like, you got to go to New York. This is where you stay at Hotel 17. You can stay there for the week for like $150. There's a shower down the hall, a toilet, and you go eat at this little cafe, and there's a payphone outside, and you make all your cold calls to all the places, and you have 2 portfolios, and you just start pounding the pavement. And I have my little shtick, like, hi, I'm Scott, I'm in from town from LA, and I just have a few days, and I'd love to come by and show you my work, I mean, it was a very much sales pitch kind of thing. And I dropped my book off and go pick it up later and try to get a meeting. If I didn't get a meeting, I dropped the book off. And then the thing you were looking for was they leave you a note. It's always pre-printed. Thank you very much for dropping your book off. We'll consider your work and da. But if they actually wrote you a handwritten note, then you're just like, that's like the attention. Yeah, and they're always like, please keep us, keep in touch with us. So I do mailings with that, and it took a while. Like I spent about a year getting going with that, and then I started getting my first biggest assignments were for Entertainment Weekly. I shot the fall TV issue, so I shot a lot of, at the time it was like Adam Sandler, Giancarlo Esposito, who's become very big now, Queen Latifah, Ellen DeGeneres. Like it was a big coup for me, and it got my name out there immediately, and then stuff started just kind of snowball a little bit from there. And then I got an agent, and then it went further, But it was just hard work.
Yeah.
Being like sort of the Amway door-to-door selling vacuum cleaners, kind of thing.
And that too, you stayed at a New York hotel for $150 for the week. That's
yeah, exactly. That's how you know how long ago that was.
Yeah, I was gonna say
a long time ago. Yeah, New York
that did give it away a little bit.
Yeah, I know. Hey, it's cool. I'm cool.
That's
I've been
awesome,
doing it
though.
for a long time. I'm still in the game. It's fine.
Absolutely. Well, that's the accomplishment right there, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's it was a different time, but it's not a better or worse time. It's just different, So
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
So guys, let's we're a couple seconds earlier, but just rather than continuing on a conversation and letting it sort of take over, I'd rather take a quick break right now, and then we'll come back and jump into the next topic. We're sitting with Scott Schafer, world-renowned photographer, on Elevated Grapes, and we'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's your host Sethee. We're also on TikTok, so make sure you follow us there at Elevated Grapes. Cheers, and back to the show.
And everybody, welcome back. We are talking with Scott Schafer. We are in an amazing conversation about New York and photography and how he is where he is today. And Scott, you have a very unique style. when it comes to your photos and your portraits, there's always like an art element to it. How did you discover that to be kind of like your signature style almost?
I really don't think of it that way. I mean, if you look at the span of my career, which is long, there's been many evolutions. There's a very strong cross-processing style, and that was a film style where you took slide film and processed it in C41, and it made the colors crazy. And in New York, there was a printing lab where everybody went. It's called the Latent Image, and it was a color lab, and you paid to rent, by the hour. And all the photographers in New York that did their own work would go there and print. So this girl Julie printed all for David LaChapelle. This other woman, Carol, printed for Richard Avedon. I'd see all these other people, Frank Ockenfels, like in another corner, and we'd all like be in our little world, and that was sort of the style of how it was. It was the craft of photography. You're in the darkroom, you use a specific film, you use a specific paper, and and everybody's like kind of hiding their stuff. So then the style was that, and it caught on. It was really trendy, and everybody got into it, and then everybody got burnt out on it. Clients stopped using it. So I had to kind of reinvent myself, and because I was a color photographer guy, which I am, but kind of find a different palette, a different kind of style, different kind of film. And that was a long trajectory, and then just things change. You just evolve, I don't really think, I'm going to do this style, but I do look at things that I like and try stuff, so these days it's, it's Photoshop is my darkroom, and that's how I kind of, I was kicking and screaming when everything went digital, because I was very proficient in how I worked with film and printing and everything. So it was very uncomfortable, especially seeing the picture come up on the screen immediately. I felt naked, I felt like, oh my God, everybody can see everything. Because before you shoot a Polaroid and you just look at the Polaroid and it's cool, and then you just shoot all your film, and then 2 days later you get the film back, and then you take 2 deep breaths, open the box, and like, oh God, be in focus, be in focus. And and hopefully your exposures are right, all that. Now it's like immediate, it's there, so that was a little jarring. And then I kind of learned Photoshop slowly. My stock agency, Corbis at the time, they're in-house retouchers. I sat behind this girl, Jessica, for 2 years basically, and learned Photoshop, kind of looking over her shoulder when she was working on my stuff. But I don't know, I think it's style is a bizarre thing, I think I like dark. I really like dark. I don't get to do as much dark as I'd like. I like slivers of light, like heavy drama. And then I can, really like bright, super colorful, funny, things. It's I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I think everybody's style is inherent. It's like you end up with a picture that feels right. I guess that's really how it is for me. That just feels like, oh, I love that. That looks good. And sometimes I'll have an idea when I'm shooting it, what I think it'll look like. But even now, when I get into Photoshop, playing with the colors, it's, it's a dark room. To me, it's like, wow, I can really control the shadows. I can really control the highlight, play with this color, So it's a lot of discovery. It's a very much, Ansel Adams said, the negative was the score, right? And the print was the performance. So
that's such a cool way to look at it. Yeah.
So the shooting part is like, I see it. Now I'm gonna, I have my music. Now I'm gonna perform it and see what it can become. How do I interpret that? So that's kind of how I think of it.
So you were talking a little bit about you touched on a little bit, obviously the move from sort of into digital, right? And how that transition, and how obviously at the onset of it, it was not well looked upon or easily adaptable, because it's a lot of change and a lot of different ways to look at photography. You're getting the pictures, you said raw and naked, a couple of words you used. But, in your work, you work with a lot of actual props and sets for your shoots. Whereas, some people will do a lot of that in post, given that it's, how much easier it is now to do that in post. What are your thoughts on that in terms of why you still stick to that method or strategy, and what's important about it to you?
Well, I mean, it's when it comes down to it, when that happens, is budget. You know, it really comes down
Right.
to it. Especially these days, budgets aren't the same as they used to be. We build huge sets, multiple sets on jobs. It just doesn't happen that much as it used to. Locations, a lot more, you know, and then dressing those locations. And certainly, you know, we've had to do plating and, you know, strip in backgrounds and things like that a lot. You know, that's sort of the way it works. You know, even now, I used to shoot on, you know, 5 different color seamlesses. Now we shoot on gray, and we can just throw a different color behind, you know.
Right.
We did this for this, working with all these animals, and they wanted like a rainbow of different colors, but they didn't know which animals they wanted to do it with. So it's just, well, we'll shoot it on gray, and then we'll, you know, choose
Add in the color.
and it's fine. But yeah, I mean, when you have something concrete that's actually in the picture, it's great. You know, the big thing, you know, technically that it comes down to is, especially if you see the feet, you know, what they're grounded on, if you're going to strip in a world behind them, and I always like to know what surface they're going to be on, whether it's, you know, sand, asphalt, floor, hardwood floor, carpet, whatever it is. So they're on at least the surface before you strip in the background, and kind of know how they're going to build that. So it looks as authentic as possible. Like, you know, so many times I've had to explain that people are, you know, they think everything's Photoshop now, you know. It's like, nope, that was there. That was really there, you know. And, you know, so we try to do our best to make it real, you know, if we can't make it real. But, you know, in the sort of entertainment world, I don't have control over the finishing. So they'll do multiple backgrounds and create different kind of comps and things like that. So when the work comes out, sometimes all the time, I'm at the mercy of whoever finished it or the designer who did it. And sometimes it looks bad, and sometimes it looks really good. But I have no control over that. You know? So occasionally they want me to finish, though, which is nice. If they want me and my team to finish it, then I know when it goes out in the world, it's going to look the way it should. And that, you know, for the most part, that's it. You know, like we did the John Legend Christmas record, and that was on location. We dressed it all out. We did this whole Nat King Cole, you know, 50s kind of Christmas thing. And I had full control over all of that. And they spent the money to do it right. You know, most of the time it just comes down to budget nowadays, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's something we've been like hearing all the time. But speaking of all this that, you know, you've been doing and being in the entertainment world, out of curiosity, what is it like to actually shoot celebrities? Like, I mean, to take their photos. Let me just rephrase that question a little bit.
Yeah.
But what's it like to, you know, show up on set to take their photos? And like I think, you know, people always hear these crazy stories about them, and I'm just curious from your own personal opinion, what's it like?
Well, it's like shooting anybody, you know. Sometimes you have 1 minute and that's it, and they don't even see you, you know, and know you, you know. Other times you're spending all day. Everybody's different, you know. I've had really, really great experiences and connections with so many different people. And then some, like I said, it's like you got 5 minutes, go. We need
in and out.
2 setups, 3 shots, that's it. You're go. And,
it sounds almost robotic to a degree at that point.
Well, I think the key is, you know, personality wise, you have to, I try to disarm them in a good way, you know, as quickly as I can. I mean, I always tell my students, like, you have to like actually feel like you've formed a relationship with somebody you've never met in 5 minutes or 2 minutes, you know, and make a connection. So I think it takes experience, but, you know, it's wonderful, you know, and it can be intimidating. It depends on the person, how technical it is, whatever you're doing, how many shots you got to pull off. But it's wonderful. You know, we've had Johnny Depp. I photographed Johnny Depp on his birthday, and he was chill. You know, we did, this is years ago, but he, you know, we just put on like the Stones, and he smoked his brown cigarettes, and we talked about Hunter Thompson. It was amazing, you know, and then did the shoot, and we brought him a cake, you know, videoed it. He was very sweet, you know. So that was like one of those experiences that, you know, was really cool, you know. Obama, even for that, it was 4 minutes of shooting, but I felt like, you know, I had a quick chat about his golf game, you know, and, you know, and he's a lovely man. I mean, it's just, you have to work fast, you know, so
Right.
time's up, it's time's up. They leave. You don't go, oh, you got it. You know, they peace out, they're gone. So, but it's fun. I photographed so many of my heroes, you know, and so many people I
must have been
admire, and
so nice.
yeah, and it's a lot of hurry up and wait, you know, but you know, it's a lot of times these shoots are in conjunction with you know, TV production shoots for commercials, or even on set during movies. So you get them when you get them, kind of thing. Okay, he's coming. You're gonna have 10. It's like, okay, you know, everybody go. You know?
Yeah.
All right, see ya. You know.
Yeah,
but,
you're working on their schedule.
yeah, well, you're kind of a bottom feeder a lot of times.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we'll give them over to them. But you know, it's part of their job. They're pro, you know, and I've had very great collaborators. Stephen Colbert was an amazing collaborator. Andy Samberg and The Lonely Island, great collaborators. I worked with them a lot. You know, the ideas, we would just have so much fun. I'd be just dying laughing, you know. You know, it's just, I don't know, there's too many to think about, but it's been.
Who was your first?
Cool. My first?
Who was your first? Yeah.
Oh, wow. My first. Jeez. I don't know. Boy, that's a long time.
I thought I would try my luck by like sliding that question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Who was my first day? I don't know. It might have been that session for Entertainment Weekly. Like at the time, Anna Sandler was like a huge fan, so I was excited to meet him. And comedians are kind of weird, though. Comedians you think are going to be the best, sometimes they're very much the opposite.
I've heard this, yeah.
They don't want to do what they don't think is funny. Usually they don't like your ideas unless it's their idea. And I don't know. That was kind of the experience. I don't, you know, no disrespect to Adam, you know, if I was getting my picture taken and you know, some guy like me is coming in, hey man, put your underwear on your head or something stupid. You're not going to be like, what are you talking about? That?
Not that funny.
Do that. But you know, sometimes you have to build trust.
Right.
But I don't know. That's a good question. Jeez, Rashi, when you put me on the spot there, I'd have to actually get back to you. But,
so while you get back to us on that, we're going to take a short, quick break.
okay.
And hopefully by the time we do come back, you will tell me who was your first, because I'm dying to know.
Okay.
So everyone, we are taking a quick break. We are talking with Scott Schafer, and hopefully we'll find out who his first is when we're back.
Hey everybody, this is Stylist Rashi Bindra. Do not forget to catch us on Rukus Avenue. Also, you can hear us on the Dash Radio app every Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
All right, welcome back. We're sitting with Scott Schafer, world-renowned photographer. Before the break, we're getting into some of the work he's done with celebrities, a lot of well-known celebrities, and we put him on the spot. Well, Rashi put him on the spot to ask him who his first was that he remembers, and kind of stumped him a little bit, but I think we may have come up with an answer, and a pretty good one at that too. So Scott, share it with us.
Got it.
So Snoop Dogg, and, and before, you know, he kind of broke out, but we photographed him at the studio where him and Dre were knocking out his first record, actually. And
oh wow! So it was very, very early in his career.
Yeah. This is pretty much a year out of school at this point, and he was my first like really name guy. Like there's already a big thing going on, and you know, the whispers of the next guy, and he was it. And so yeah, it was a really cool experience. And and it's funny because I shot it so arty. Like I did, like, you know, back then it was like you like I was telling you earlier, editorial for magazines, it was kind of a free-for-all, you know. So I photographed him like blurry. I did all this stuff with motion, you know, all these cool portraits, really moody, smoking weed, you know. I was in the Crips, so he had this like big bandana, and the color was whacked out, and then I did all this weird black and white stuff, and all this crazy toning in the dark room, like original pieces, and made this huge grid. It it was beautiful, and none of it ever got published because it was too far gone. It was for Vibe magazine, and Vibe magazine no longer exists, but it was for the premiere issue of Vibe magazine.
Oh wow, okay.
And it was just gonna be an inside piece, but he ended up becoming, a bigger thing. So they're gonna put him on the
cover
first issue for the cover. And they loved the work, but they needed a cover shoot, which was more straightforward. So Dan Winters shot the cover instead of me.
Okay. Did any of your pieces make it in or not published at all?
No, but what happened was that I sold them. I sold them in stock forever, and Snoop bought them back.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if it's here. I photographed him again a couple times, but he used it for his autobiography.
Oh, that's fun.
Wow.
Those pictures, yeah. And so when I photographed him again, I was like, "Hey man, sign the book." He's like, "Yeah, man, you're all over it." So that was pretty cool. I did very well selling it for stock. So it was seen throughout the world in all sorts of many publications, just not the one I was hired for. So.
Wow, and that's such a fun experience, especially when you got to be involved with the early part of his career.
Yeah. And, it was definitely during the, the Crips and the Bloods, and there's a lot of gang stuff going on in the 90s here. And so it was a little tricky, I'm a white boy from the burbs, hanging on Compton, like, what's up, man? Like, bro, like just as white as snow, so I probably had a good laugh over me, but yeah, it was a blast, and I made some really fun work. It was a very good shoot. So
I love that story. I absolutely love it. Yeah. So with everything that you're doing, do you feel you have any personal life? Because I feel like in this industry, being busy has become such an over glamorized thing. And that's more, it's like being being busy has been over glamorized instead of being valued. What's your point of view on that?
Well, it's different stages, in the early days, you're busy like crazy because to make a living, you have to be, when you're shooting for magazines and, small album packages and stuff, you have to, you work a lot. And when you kind of get in, so to speak, I guess, and, it sort of takes one job and then it's sort of mushrooms. Like I said, sort of the magazines are sort of like promotional pieces. Everybody sees a magazine, they go, oh, that guy, they want to get that guy, let's shoot for this. So you get busy. Later now, it's different. Like, I don't shoot as much, but I shoot for more, and they tend to kind of cluster up, so it's, you'll get booked for 3 shoots in a week and then have nothing sometimes for 2 months. It's very bizarre. But in the meantime, being busy, I think, I'm not the guy that's got a fire lit under his ass and it's like, I live to work and that's all I do. I moved to New York to do that. And that's what I did do. And I was busy, and that was my life. The other thing though is important, as a freelancer, I could make my own time to take off. I took a year off and travel around the world. Pretty much at the peak of the beginning of my career, where I was really starting to kind of get going. And it actually ended up being the perfect time to leave because the phone was ringing a lot, but I had made this plan with this girl, and I backpacked around Asia for a year. And
wow.
And I ended up, all that stuff is on my site, but I did all these really beautiful Polaroid land camera portraits. And, I was in Nepal, India, Vietnam, Egypt,
oh, wow.
Asia. Like it was amazing.
Legitimately,
and I did a whole separate body of work with that. So, and that was like, I needed that at that point. I think it was only maybe 4 years out on my career, and things were really going, but I was kind of already burnt out because it was so much stress, and like I said, I kind of learned on my own. So it, from school into working, and it was just, and trying to learn the business and function, that was really a needed thing. But I also would take like a month off and travel, miss jobs. These days, it's like, I'm busy sitting on my ass in front of my computer now, unfortunately, retouching, and it used to be different, so I always used to say, like, I never want a desk job, and I feel like sort of I have a desk job now. But yeah, personal time, there's plenty, but you have to manage it,
Right. Yeah, and I feel like as a freelancer, it all comes down to time management. And if you're able to, master that, you can still do so much without feeling burnt out or feeling like it's become like it doesn't take away that passion from you, the reason that you started doing this.
Sure. Yeah, no, I've been lucky enough to feel, certainly I've been very lucky that most gigs I do, I like, so it's never feeling like I'm grinding in terms of the actual work. But the work to stay busy, to promote yourself or update your website or, try to make contacts, connect with other people, get meetings, all that stuff. That's the busy work. That's just part of the gig. You have to be able to do that. And it can become obsessive where you're always thinking about it. So, I'm pretty good now at, okay, I'm taking, like this week, I'm taking the week off. This is the only thing I'm doing this, I have a couple other things I got to deal with, but I'm radio silence for a week.
Nice.
And, I'm spending time with my kids and things like that. It's just different. Now I'm a dad.
Absolutely.
I'm a single dad.
Yeah.
So it's, before it's just like, go, travel. You're gone all the time. And, it's just a little different. I'm kind of like the older guys settle down somewhat now.
So Scott, we are coming to an end to our conversation, sadly, because I'm really, really enjoying talking to you. Just wanted to ask, I mean, we did touch on mentoring and assisting, but do you coach photographers as well?
No, coaching, no. I mean, I teach. I try to help.
Right.
I mean, coaching is a word that's never really kind of come up in our business, at least my business. I've tried to help people. I have, fellow photographers that are in the same business, that I've befriended. So we talk a lot,
Right.
we commiserate a lot, oh man, this job, I lost this job, I didn't get it. I mean, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. The freelance life is very, there's no steady to it. So I befriended a bunch of guys, fellow collabs or not collab, or, just people I've gotten to know over the years. And it's really nice to kind of, connect with those guys. So, kind of bounce things back and forth. And then, some of my assistants, the people I've worked with over the years, they do jobs, they'll ask questions and things, but the most I coach is when I teach.
Right.
So I try to inspire the most there, which is amazing because it actually inspires me. And
I love that.
Me back to sort of going old school, because some of our productions get to be so big, I forget that I can just, take a camera and throw some stuff in the car and get a person and just go take off and see what happens. And going back to that is actually a little uncomfortable, but
Right.
when you go through it and it's like, oh man, I could still do this. I still got the goods. I don't need to have a massive team behind me. I know what I'm doing. And simplifying, just going simple. Hey, I'll just use the sun, on this one.
Yeah.
Or the open shade, that's
But sometimes those ones turn out the best too, right?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
Because you are just
That's
simplifying
more.
it.
Sorry?
Because it turns out the best because you are just simplifying it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I think the thing that's uncomfortable for me, at least, is knowing a feeling I want to get out of a session, but not knowing what it is I'm going to actually do.
Yeah.
Knowing I have, okay, I'm going to try this. I'll start with this light, but still, then it just sort of,
Becomes
morphs into something, which is uncomfortable, but at the same time, so gratifying when it starts clicking, and that's the juice, that's the juice. Yeah.
So Scott, as Rashi mentioned, we're coming to a close in our conversation. For the benefit of our listeners, we'd love for you to share sort of your socials, website, where can people follow your journey and get to see more of your work?
Sure. I just have two ways. My website is fscottschafer.com. And that's FSCOTTSCHAFER.com, because everybody spells my last
Yeah,
name.
we'll drop that in the description so it can be a direct
And
link.
then yeah, I'm on Instagram, same thing, at Scott Schafer. And that's kind of it, that's it. Website and Instagram. It's pretty much where I
It's like
live.
you said, you got to keep it simple sometimes.
I'm not a TikToker or whatever, all those other blah blah blah. I have Facebook, but I don't really look at it anymore. So that's
So we're not going to see a Scott Schafer TikTok account coming up anytime soon.
You know what? I probably have to do it because now apparently that's what's happening.
Yeah.
There, Yeah, it's not my favorite thing to do, but it's a necessity. So I guess I'll get
Yeah, exactly.
TikTok away. Get going.
That's it. Scott, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you guys. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Scott, so much.
That was great.
Your stories are inspirational and raw and real. So that's kind of conversations we like to have.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad. I hope someone will learn something from whatever it is I had to say. So that's great.
So for our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to Elevated Grapes. We will catch you next week.
Hey guys, thank you for watching that podcast or that video. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more of us and see some of our behind the scenes stuff, subscribe below.
Yes, hit that little red button thingy that's over there and hit subscribe and keep following us for a lot more cool fun stuff.
Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Hey, what's up everyone? I am your host, Sethee.
I am Stylist Rashi Bindra.
Elevated Grapes is a digital media hub that includes a talk show, event correspondence, and digital hosting for partner projects.
The talk show which you are listening to or watching, depending what you're doing, covers topics in fashion, business, and lifestyle.
We regularly have incredible guests that share their stories, their experiences, and tips on the above topics.
And when we don't, you get to hear how we talk to each other off air.
So subscribe to your favorite streaming site, YouTube, and Instagram for behind the scenes and additional visual content.
Let's jump right into the show. Welcome to Elevated Grapes.